everybody, and welcome to this Dislife Podcast. I am your host, Mark Valentine, Disney enthusiast, annual pass holder, and DVC member. And as always, I am so honored that you are joining our show today and helping us live our very best Disney lives. This is the start of season 2 here at This Dislife. We made a few updates to the podcast and on some of our socials to include other content creators. So we had a small bit of rebranding moving forward, but rest assured, we're still going to be a podcast that's dedicated to help you stay in that Disney bubble and help you live your best Disney life. Check us out at our new website, www.thisdislifepodcast.com, where you can find all of our episodes from season 1, along with our blogs from our team of contributors. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe to the show, leave us a rating and a 5-star review. So I'm super excited to start season 2 by welcoming Shawn Williams to the show today from Walt's Apartment Podcast. Shawn is a friend from afar, and he resides out on the West Coast. Walt's Apartment has become my go-to podcast for all things Disneyland, and we've done some really fun collaborations already with his team. So I'm so looking forward to more of that this year, and the beginning of that is also to have Shawn here on our show, This Dislife. So in today's episode, Shawn's going to be breaking down some of his favorites from Disneyland, and he's going to help us walk in Walt's footsteps and talk about his favorite Disney classic attractions that have Walt's fingerprints all over them. I can't think of a better way to begin season 2 than to begin again where it all started. Shawn, thank you so much for joining us here at This Dislife Podcast. I'm so honored to have you. You are a friend of the show. We've really had a lot of fun in the last month and a half. What an honor it is to have you. Thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely, Mark. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on here. I haven't done a lot of interviews, so I'm really excited to be part of your first episode of season 2. That's pretty exciting. Congratulations on that. But thank you so much. Like you said, we have became good friends and bonded over. You guys are teaching me about Walt Disney Works. I don't know much about it at all, so I'm a Disneyland purist through and through. Some people on my team go back and forth with both, but I definitely am all Disneyland, and it's an honor to be on your show, and I really appreciate you and your whole team as well, buddy. So how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's so funny because I had Lisa on from Custom Boutique by Lisa, and she's also a West Coaster as well, lives over near Orange County. And she said, well, I know that you guys are predominantly an East Coast, you're an Orlando-based podcast. And I said, listen, but you're in the hearth as far as we're concerned. You are in the beginning of where this all started. So I love having episodes dedicated just to Disneyland. Mm-hmm. And as a historian and as a former history teacher, that to me is my goal. Like, that's my bucket list, is to get out west. We were going to, but with COVID, it kind of delayed our ability to get out there. So I'm really excited whenever I can bring on someone who is a guru as far as Disneyland goes. So I'm psyched, but how appropriate it is that we're starting season 2. So this is the beginning of the season, and I wanted to talk about the beginning of Walt's dream and Walt's vision. So I'm like, hey, Shawn is a Disney historian in and of himself. It's not just a partner, Well, like on your podcast and when you do your show, that's your forte. You're always you roll your sleeves up whenever someone starts getting into Walt history. You're like, well, let me tell you.
Right.
So we got to have Shawn. Shawn's got to be the guy.
Dude, he is. It's just, you talk about Walt Disney, and I talk about him, I get emotional because it's the respect to have for someone that is just so much. Screw you, I'm going to try it anyway and do it, and that's what he's been all along. I mean, from when he was born, then when he started his first studio, and that didn't fail. And he said, I'm going to try this again, and then he lost Oswald. Okay, I'm going to try again and do something else, and then just that drive that someone has, and you just admire it. And obviously, being from Southern California, being at Disneyland so many times when I was a kid, and till I was 30, till I moved up to Southern Oregon. But it's just the respect I have for Walt Disney is amazing. If you don't know, I have a tattoo of Walt Disney on my arm of the partner statue, just out of respect for that man. And Disneyland to me. I will say this, I've been listening to a lot more Walt Disney content this past month, and I don't think I'll ever waver from saying that Walt Disney World's better than Disneyland, but you know what I'm saying? Disneyland to me is still home, and it's going to, and just walking down the streets there and seeing everything that is, ooh, Walt did that. Walt did that. Oh, he did that. Go to here. There's just so much stuff. And if I ramble, please stop me, because I could talk all day long about him.
No, so. I love, so Walt Disney is a masterclass in resilience. He really is. For anyone who's ever read a biography on Walt Disney, he truly is a masterclass on suffering setbacks and then just continuing to press forward with your vision and your dream. So from that aspect alone, not even imagining, appreciating him as an Imagineer, just looking at his biography and his life story it's just unbelievable. That I tell people who even if you don't fan out over the parks, just as a biography story, Walt Disney is incredible.
Absolutely.
But it's so funny that you mentioned too, because I have a lot of people that I know that have traveled to both coasts, and they've gone to both, and almost to the person, it doesn't matter who you ask. It's a hard decision. Whenever you ask someone to compare Walt Disney World in Orlando and Disneyland in Orange County, California, they say it's not that easy to do, that it really is an apples and oranges comparison. Walt Disney World is gigantic. It's spread out. It is it's a destination.
Right.
Walt Disney or Disneyland is the hearth from which all of these ideas sprung.
Right.
It is a time capsule in many ways. Walt Disney's fingerprints are all over the park. And so it's a very different vibe and it's a very different feel. Some people will go out west and they say they're underwhelmed because they think it's going to be very much that spread out resort-like, all-inclusive experience. And it's not, but in some ways there's a purity to it.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's the biggest, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was going to say that you can't get it in Orlando. The only thing that I was going to say is, for me, and I understand that analogy, and I brought this up with Lisa, and I want to repeat it again here. For someone who has traveled to Europe and comparing travel here in the States to travel in Europe, it's very much the same thing. The United States has a lot of natural beauty. It's very spacious. It's very spread out. Vacationing here is amazing. You could go to any one of these cities and you feel like you're in a different country because of the resources and how different we are from one region to another. But when you go to Europe, there really is nothing like that to compare it with over in the United States. We have some old cities here in the East, but even still, they do not compare to the centuries old charm that you get when you go to these European cities, that you realize there's so much history. Right. There's so much of man's story in these cities that's what, to me, when you ask someone to compare Orlando and Disneyland, California, that's very analogous to what it's like.
Right.
Disneyland, it has a history, a Disney history that you cannot get, no matter how many lands you try to manufacture, no matter how many statues you erect in Orlando, it will never have that same gravitas that it has.
And you get that, and I totally agree with what you're saying. And I mean, the name of my podcast is Walt's Apartment, and one reason I did that was because no one else had it on Apple, which was cool. But a big reason is because when you walk into Disneyland, you walk in, you walk under the sign, and then you walk through the tunnels, and you look over to the left, and right there in the beginning is Walt's apartment. Walt's apartment was built for him to be there when they were building the park, or anytime that he was in the park. There, there's the light is on in the window all the time, and because he would turn that light and let his people know, hey, I'm here. Because Walt was very big about announcing himself. I did a birthday article for him a couple weeks ago when I was doing some research, and I think one of the Sherman brothers said, when he would walk into a room, he coming down the hall and he would, kind of cough to let people know, and people would always make sure that they knew. He would always want people to know he was on his way. And I do take the time every single time I go that I walk through the gates, I stop, I do look up at the sign going where the train goes across. Here you enter the world of, then you walk in, you look at the apartment, and know that the guy that created all this stayed there, lived there, looked out that window on his people, on his guests. And like you said, I've been to Disney World once. I went there when I was 16 years old, and I only went to Magic Kingdom. I barely remember it. I do remember that it was really, really big. That's the one thing I remember. It was really big compared to Disneyland. The history we could just talk about that the whole thing, Mark. It's just a history of everywhere you look there of all the stuff that he did. And, you walk into the Lincoln, where they'd have Abraham Lincoln, and the park bench that he sat on when he thought the idea up of Disneyland is sitting there from Griffith Park, California. So, I mean, he's sitting there on a Saturday watching his daughters play on the merry-go-round and says, hey, I want to start my own theme park. His wife says, you're absolutely crazy. Why would you want to start a theme park? Because they're dirty and disgusting. He says, my park will never be dirty or disgusting. And at first, they wanted to have it in the hills by Griffith Park, but the city of Burbank said, nope, not going to happen. So that's why he did move it to Anaheim. And I can stop. I'll stop because I can tell you the whole history of Walt Disney if you want. So,
I mean, listen, you never have to. I'm enjoying. Yeah. I'm just enjoying myself. That you got good stuff when you shut me up, man. Because I'm a talker. Yeah. So I always joke around with people and say, like, when they ask how was the episode, I go, you always know it was really good if I just shut up and listen for X amount of time. So I start all of these. I just don't want you to get too far ahead of yourself, because if you've listened to one of our podcasts before, you know that every single podcast, whenever there's a new guest and it's the first time they come on, the show started as Disneylife Podcast before we made it this Dislife. And I always ask people to tell the genesis of their Disney lives. What was it that started your love affair with Disney? Uh-huh. And so let me frame it for you too, if you haven't had a chance to maybe hear one of the episodes, but describe what it was, whether it was a film, a family vacation, a television show that pulled on your heartstrings that really started this journey for you into being a Disney dude.
Sure. That's easy. I originally am from Southern California, Ventura County, which is about 45 miles from Anaheim. So it took about an hour to get there. I've been with my wife, Lisa, since we were in high school together. And I went to Disneyland sometimes before that with, band performances or something like that, or I went with my family every now and then. Disneyland was cool, but it really got big when I was in high school. And every Friday afternoon, my wife and I would just hop in the car. School would end at 2:30. We'd drive out to Anaheim, take an hour to get there. We'd stay till midnight pretty much every weekend. We would go out there and hang out there because back then it was like $25 to get in. So it just became a part of our family. It's became a part of our life. I share a lot of my greatest memories there. I lived in Southern California and went on my honeymoon to Disneyland and stayed at the Disneyland Hotel for 4 days, which was to be with someone that you care that much about in the place that you care so much about for 4 days and basically have all the time in the world to do that. And then, I have 4 kids, and to introduce my 2 oldest daughters to Disneyland, and they absolutely love it and they care about it, and that's part of their life. And then I have my 2 sons as well. Once we moved up here, I was 30 years old, and my youngest son was 1.5, and my other son was, I think, in kindergarten. So we're at this point now where I have my daughters who love Disneyland, and we went to Disneyland the week before we moved up here just to kind of say goodbye. And then every year since then, we've been up here for 16 or 17 years. We've planned a family vacation to take my sons for the first time, take my older son, Brady, for the first time and see him walk in and look at all this stuff. And he was kind of very introverted and didn't want to do anything, but it opened him up. And if that makes sense, you know what I mean? And then my son Zach, to take him, and just, it's became such a part of our family. I have our bathroom is decorated all in Disneyland. Like I said, we do yearly trips there. Then fast forward a few years, I have a 7-year-old grandson now. To take him in to see Disneyland, it's the most amazing thing, if that makes sense. I've been asked this question. I've been asked this a few times, and it just completely, to watch through the eyes of someone who's 40 years old at that time, to watch my grandson who's 2 at the time walk in and just look around, being a small little kid from Oregon, and soak this in. And he absolutely loves Disney now too. And then all we do here is we watch Disneyland parades. We'll watch the Soundsational parade. We'll watch Fantasmic just because. We watch a Magic Happen parade just because. That's all we do. I have a Disney wall in my house with just all Disney. The stuff behind me is all Disney stuff. Again, I can ramble on about how much I love Disney. To wrap it up easily, Disney is the one constant in my family, if that makes sense. It brings us all together every time. Our trips our trips are not just a few people. Our trips are normally 20 to 25 people when we go down there. And
we don't do 25. Yeah. But it's the thread for our family, it's the thread. I grew up, we did not, I've said this on several shows. We did not have a lot of money. So the trips to Disney were big, life events for us. Mm-hmm. we were, we never really had money to stay on property. We would stay at a Days Inn. My parents would do those janky timeshare presentations to get tickets to Disney because we did not have a lot of money. So they would sit in the timeshare presentations to get a day or two ticket to go and extend the Disney vacation.
Yeah.
But when we went, it was like a really big deal. So it was a soft spot for me growing up. And I grew up a sickly kid, and I always knew I was a very sickly kid, and Disney was the only time I never felt that. And then my wife and I went in our late teens. We also, she and I had been together since high school. We went in our late teens, and then we went again in our early 20s, and we got bit by the bug doing it as couples. And then the real, like you say, your children and then your grandchildren, when my daughter, seeing it through her eyes,
oh yeah,
it rekindled it again and reminded me why I love the company and the parks and what it was all about. Walt watching his kids play
exactly
on the carousel. That's how it started for him, So me very much watching my child enter Main Street, see the castle, ride Dumbo, have those magical moments. That's what did it again for me. And we really have not stopped since. And so it rekindled. I tell people Disney has been a recurring theme in our life, but it really has become somewhat of an obsession since my daughter's 3rd birthday, that we then realized the value that it's added to our family. Mm-hmm. And that's really what it is it's added value to our lives, our family vacations, our memories. And we very much treat it like that. We treat it with a healthy respect, and our vacation time's at a premium. And we became Disney Vacation Club members as a result of that. So listen, you're not weirding me out. Brother. I get it. Everything that you're laying down, I'm picking up.
That's it. It's funny, you asked about my admiration for Walt, and then going there when I was so much. I'm honest to God, we would go 4 or 5 times, 4 times a month. We would always go. And I'm like, who created this? What is this all about? And then I was probably 16, 17 years old when I started diving into who Walt Disney was, and then just blew my mind about, everything. And so it's just, my mom told me when I was 2 years old, I punched Mickey Mouse in the nose. So maybe that's where it started. I don't know. But,
it was guilt.
My kids do tease me because every time we walk into the park, I will stop. We always go left. We walk into the left. I'll stop and I'll look up at the sign. It goes over the, I know the sign in Florida, I guess, is round. Yeah. That says here. Ours is like a weird thing, but a weird different. But I'll stop. I'll stare at it. My son will always say, "You crying yet?" And I said, "Not yet." So, but then we'll walk in. We'll walk down Main Street. Then I'll get to the statue and the castle. I always tear up. I'm not gonna lie. I'm 47 years old, and I tear up every time I go there. So it's just to be there with my family and to admire what was created by this guy. Yeah, that's the best.
Happily Ever After gets me every time, my dude.
Yep.
Every single solitary time, Happily Ever After does it for me. Mm-hmm. I can watch the videos of people who will live stream in Facebook groups. They'll live stream Happily Ever After fireworks. And mm-hmm. I can feel it well up in my chest. I get very emotional over it. Yeah. Because it does. It brings back good memories.
Yeah.
I joked, and we're going to have Amber on our show Mandalorian Monday, but I joked that I watched on air, and it will have aired at this point. So I'm going to have shared this story as well. But Amber is joining us on Mandalorian Monday, which will be in the can by a week.
Right.
But I'm going to drop this on Mandalorian Monday. So I'm watching Mando, and then I see the X-Wing fly onto screen. And then I just started to get let's just call it the feels. Because I knew it was a lone X-Wing. I'm like, yep. And all I said was how. I didn't do anything else. I said how. And then I see the green lightsaber, and I said it again. How is this happening?
Yep.
And then when they showed the glove hand, mm-hmm. and it was Luke's glove from his severed hand from Empire, involuntarily, a single tear rolled down my cheek. My body betrayed me. My emotions betrayed me. And so I joked and I said, it connected me to, I've said this now 3 times in the Mandalorian season 2. All of a sudden I was 6-year-old Mark sitting in front of the television, playing with my Star Wars action figures, creating that story for Luke, because we waited, you and I we're not too far apart in age.
Right.
I waited from 83 until 99 to get more Star Wars, first off. And that's what I got in 99 wasn't even the continuation of Luke's saga.
Right.
So I waited until The Force Awakens to even have my childhood hero appear on screen. And then I waited to the end of Force Awakens to even see Luke with a beard in exile in Octo. So when I saw him as a Jedi Master clad in black, like something straight out of Return of the Jedi, cutting through the Dark Troopers, I was 6 again.
Right.
And I created that story for Luke in my own imagination, sitting on my carpet, watching him. And here I was at 42, and I called it my Ratatouille moment, where I bit into the Ratatouille.
Mm-hmm.
And then I, like the critic, I was transported back. Like I had flashbacks of that. And then I lost it. I
hear you.
It was a warm blanket feeling.
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
Something I hadn't experienced. That long story, it's very similar to Disney, that every time you see that castle again,
oh yeah,
or you see, the fireworks, instantly you are brought back and transported to whatever that point in time was that your life that you first experienced it. The sights, the smells, the emotions, the feelings, the sounds. People are like, how do you get that emotional every single time? And it's like, listen, it's muscle/emotional memory.
Absolutely.
That every time I go there, I have such a good emotion associated with that it doesn't matter how many times I see it. It brings me back to that time in my life, that it just brings back all of those good feelings and emotions. And I think by and large, wouldn't you say that that's all of us?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's why we go time after time. It's more than just like, I've been to the Bahamas and I've gone on all-inclusive vacations anymore. I don't get that from those. Right. I get that from Disney, which is why I continue here. Take my money. I throw it out the window. Take my money.
I get asked every time after we have a trip, what are we going to do next year for a vacation? And I'm like, well, we'll come back here. My kids are like, oh, I don't want to do that again. Or my wife's like, I don't want to do that again. But then when we get back and January 1st comes around and Shawn starts planning again, they're like, well, yeah, let's do this. Can we do this? And can we do that? So my wife never wants to go on cruises and wants to go on. I don't want to go to Europe. I don't have any urge. I'd rather go to Disneyland every year for the rest of my life. And people think I'm absolutely insane, but think that. And it's totally fine because that's who I am. And that's what I want to do. If you don't want to go with me, don't go with me. But you know what? 20 damn people every year decide they want to go with me for some reason. And they don't want to go to Mexico or go on a cruise. Well,
listen, here,
I don't want to go sit and drink on a vacation. I'd rather go sit and do something the whole time. I've always been like that and drives my family crazy. But
I'm going to get you in trouble right now. You ready?
So go ahead.
So you go. Say to your wife, hey, I'm going to surprise you. We're going to travel the world. I booked this a ticket to travel the world and come to Epcot and come over.
Oh. She kill me, man.
She will. She's going to think she's getting that Europe trip. And then she's coming to Orlando.
Our 30th anniversary is coming up in a few years. And I said, look, I think we should go to Paris. She goes, well, that'd be great. I said, yeah, because Disneyland Paris is there. And she just like rolled her eyes and wanted to hit me. But I mean, that's what I want to do. That's just part of me and who I am. Drives her crazy.
I will say Paris is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
I've been to Paris 3 times. It's very much worth it. So my hot take for Paris is if you are going to travel to Paris, avoid it at all costs in the summertime. Paris in the fall and winter is breathtaking because it gets dark so much earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And Paris at night is unlike any. It is the city of light. I mean, it's unreal.
Yeah.
And
I'll probably have to go.
There's nothing like cruising down the Seine with some wine. You have to smuggle it on the boat, by the way. You can't.
Okay. That's
the other thing. Don't just walk on with wine. You have to smuggle it on. But there's nothing like cruising down the Seine in the dark, looking at all of Paris lit up in the shadow of the Eiffel Tower, seeing Notre Dame, which is currently under construction. It hadn't caught fire when we last went.
Right.
But there really is nothing like it. And Paris gets a bad rap as being a very unfriendly city for tourists. I found my experience to be quite the opposite as an American in Paris, where we were in a restaurant and people heard us speaking English, and the elderly gentleman came over, asked if we were Americans. We said yes, we were, and bought us pizza, drinks, and said, "I love Americans. I have a connection to history." He was a gentleman in his 70s, and had a deep love and appreciation for us. I found that to be really, really true. Wherever I went, there was one section of Paris that I found was very anti-tourist, but I joked with someone. I was like, that's not an indictment on Parisians. That's just an indictment on the neighborhood. I mean, like, there's cities in New York City that are like that you just don't venture into if you're a tourist to New York City, and they're terrible and they're miserable to you because they'll tell you, just go to Manhattan, get out of here. We don't want you. We don't want you in our borough. So you got to go. You got to go.
I'm still not excited about it. I'd rather go to Disneyland. That's just me.
I'm not going to try to dissuade you from doing that either. You should definitely.
Right. Oh yeah.
Don't be afraid to travel to Europe, because it really is amazing. And again, there's really nothing like it. If you are a guy that loves history, you'll just stop. You'll be like your wife, where you'll fight every step of the way, and then at the tail end of the vacation, you're going to go, you know what, this was cool.
Right.
This was cool. I'm happy I did it. So I want to talk about Disneyland, because your podcast, Walt's Apartment, is all about the history of the park. Your podcast has a truer sense of Walt than a lot of the others that I've ever heard. I love the fact that you guys work in a lot of history. It's like Walt 101 in many regards. Whenever you guys come live, you have Sam on from Disology. Sam has a really amazing knowledge of Walt Disney, and you do a lot of stuff with Airbnb, and those guys too also have a deep sense of history. So I wanted you to come on today and talk about, within the framework of Walt, and why you love your top 3 Walt Disney experiences, rides, attractions, things that you just can't help but get emotional over. And you talked about this a minute ago, that you can stop and look at it. Like, can we call the apartment like 1A? Because I want you to choose. We kind of got one already.
That wouldn't be one of, I mean, when I thought about what you asked me, that I didn't even think about that, because for me, that's just my moment I have when I get there every time, and just have that special moment for a second, look up, hey, what's up? And that's how I feel. Like, it's almost like a wave. How are you? Thank you for letting me come here again. But talk about rides. And you asked me this, and I said, do you want Walt specific rides that he created, or that was part of it? And you said that. So, I mean, I can pick 3 pretty easily. First one I would probably say is It's a Small World, which would surprise some people. I was talking to Sam about this, and she was saying, yeah, that makes sense because of what he did with It's a Small World. The idea of audio animatronics kind of came from that. Kind of started with that, and with Lincoln, when he took Lincoln and he took the People Mover concept, and he took a Small World to the World's Fair, I think in 1964, 1963, something like that. Those years, A Small World, I think it's just cool, and the idea behind it. And if you ever watched, I do a lot of writing for the Disneysider.com, and a lot of times when I first started writing, I did history of attractions. So I would break down, Walt's idea for that was to create something that all the children of the world, and have them come together. And then the idea that he took that whole attraction and brought it from New York back to Anaheim, along with Mr. Lincoln, and the idea for the People Mover as well. That's one of the ones I think that just kind of, you look at that and you say, yeah, this is 15 minutes and the damn song's in my head the whole time. But Walt thought of this, and it was, I just think it was so cool that it was something that he put together. It was his idea to come up with the boats because, you get more people in, and he was all about making sure as many people could get on his attractions. And just the idea of the Small World would definitely be one of them. Is that kind of what you're asking for? Is that kind of history of it?
Oh yeah, that's all. Okay. Well, and you already impressed upon the thing that I loved from a Imagineering standpoint of that ride, that if you watch the first episode of the Imagineering story, which is my favorite documentary series on Disney Plus.
Absolutely agree.
That when they talk about the mechanics behind that ride, the episode almost kind of says to you and smacks you in the face of, listen, don't sleep on Small World because you think it's old and it's low tech. For its time, it was really revolutionary with the boat.
Oh, absolutely.
That he knew that those boats, the way that those boats ran, that he could get X amount of people in and through the ride, first at the World's Fair and then over at Disneyland, that it revolutionized ride mechanics, that boat was a real ingenious way of solving a logistical nightmare of how do I get all of these people onto this attraction without developing a gigantic queue,
Sure.
suffering breakdowns and mechanical breakdowns. The idea of boats was ingenious.
Yeah.
I mean, and in many ways, it's been duplicated and copied again and again and again across all of the parks all over the world, that they know, whether it's that or it's the Omni Mover,
Yep.
they can calculate that in this amount of time, when filled to capacity, this is how many people we can get on this.
Sure.
And people often gloss over that because it's a very old concept. But just because it's old doesn't mean that it's still not as relevant today in 2020 as it was in the 60s.
Sure.
When he kind of conceptualized it, it's still used and quite heavily, might I add,
Yep.
in a lot of attractions. And
well, let's be honest, though. I mean, it's hot as hell sometime in Anaheim, California, and to go on a 16-minute ride where it's the air conditioning is the coldest you've ever been in, it's amazing. And I think just seeing, and I like seeing It's a Small World because it's so basic too. For its time. You look at it now, you're like, oh yeah, there's so much more with the audio animatronics. I mean, you guys have and then the Hondo. You guys have what's the lady's name on Flight of Passage? Is it Flight of Passage?
We have Hondo. Yeah, it's well, it's not Flight of Passage.
The newbie, the Navi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've heard that's the most advanced animatronic, it was, but now I think Hondo might be now. Is that something like that? But, yeah.
To be honest with you, I haven't done a comparison, a side by side of the two animatronics. Hondo's cool,
yeah.
But the Navi River, the Queen. I don't know what else to call her. I'm not a big Pandora guy in terms of I can tell you anything Star Wars related. I can tell you Gene's guy is standing in the background. Like that's how deep I get into the Star Wars end of it. Someone will ask me a character's name in Pandora, and I'm really sorry if I'm offending anyone who loves Pandora. But outside of Jake Sully, that's all I got, guys. I'm not into Pandora. But the Queen is very impressive. Hondo is cool. You also don't get as close to Hondo as you do to the Queen in the Navi River.
And I just, like I was saying, just the basicness of the audio animatronics, I think is the coolest thing. They just have their mouths moving or whatever, their arms kicking. It's the coolest thing. It makes me go back and think, God, how did he think about this at this time and before the 70s? You know what I mean? Or anything like that. But yeah, so It's a Small World is definitely one of them.
I love it.
Number 2 is one of my favorite attractions that's there, and it's the Matterhorn, which the Matterhorn is not at Disney World. The Matterhorn is nowhere else at any park and any Disney property, and the Matterhorn is amazing because if your back's out of alignment ever, you can go on the Matterhorn because it's been known to definitely give you like chiropractor work. If you've seen all the memes and stuff, I say my back's out of place, I go on Matterhorn and I'm good to go. It's definitely rough, but it's so cool. And a couple cool things about it is the way that it came about too, is that when they built the castle for Disneyland, they took this huge amount of dirt and they put it over to the right side of the castle, and they didn't know what they're going to do with it. So they put up the skyway that they used to have. Then Walt's like, well, we're going to do this big hill here. There's a big hill people sit on and eat their lunch or whatever. They called it Holiday Hill. And then one time Walt's over in Switzerland with his wife and sees the Matterhorn and grabs a postcard and sends a picture to Bob Gurr and says, build this. Basically, and that's when Bob Gurr's like, okay, now I got to build and had no idea what he was going to do, how he was going to build it, what he was going to do. It was going to be at one time it was going to be like a slide, I think they talked about, but they actually came up with the bobsled idea. And Bob Gurr, who's a genius in his own mind, if something moved in the 50s or 60s in Disneyland, Bob Gurr had a hand in it. He designed everything. So if you've seen the Imagineering story, you know about Bob Gurr. But the Matterhorn, just the fact that, again, with Walt's idea of saying, I don't care how you do, just figure it out. And if they figured it out and they made it and it's still there, it gets people talk so bad about it all the time and it drives me crazy, but it's so much fun. I don't know if you've never been on it, right?
No. So
it's nothing like your Everest ride. That Everest ride looks pretty damn cool too, but
it's a bucket list. So there are three things specifically. I have never been to Disneyland. It is a bucket list trip for me. The bucket list inside the bucket list, number 1 for me is the Matterhorn. I am a history buff. I just want to ride it for the history alone. I don't care if my back gets thrown out from the history alone. Listen, our Space Mountain is rough. We say this joke about our Space Mountain. It's rough. It's really bad. So it can't be any worse than our Space Mountain, which really it hurts.
I don't know, man. It's rough.
There's Alpha and Omega. We have 2 tracks.
Yeah.
If I ride the Alpha track, I will audibly yell in the middle of the ride because it hurts. Like if you're in the back, if you're in the third position and in the back of the car, in the second car, it is the roughest dang ride in the world. So I don't even care from that perspective, but the history behind it, they built a mountain. I mean, it's just so cool when you consider the time period that it was constructed. They built a mountain. And I loved on the Imagineering story, the half court, the basketball side of it. It was so cool.
The cool thing about the Matterhorn is when Bob Gurd designed it, it's the first. I mean, you look at roller coasters these days, right? And there's so many tubular roller coasters. The Matterhorn is the first tubular steel roller coaster ever to be created or designed. And his ideas of using car tires for brakes and just sensors and stuff. It's amazing. I will say, I've never been on your Space Mountain. I might have went on when I was there, but I don't remember. But there's a part of the Matterhorn, I'm not sure what side it's on, but you're just going along. All of a sudden, it just drops down like 2 feet. And you talk about your back going in, but again, I will do it every single time. The Matterhorn is one of the best things I've ever been seen. And for me, it was always a symbol that when you're coming down the I-5 freeway and you're getting off now it's Disneyland Drive. It used to be, you would get off on Catella. And, that's the first thing you see. You see the Matterhorn. Damn, I'm at Disneyland. So to me, that's what it is for me too. There's Disneyland. Yeah, you can kind of see top of the castle. You can see the spires of Space Mountain, but Matterhorn's the tallest thing in Disneyland. You're like, damn, I'm here again. And it's those feelings too is why it's one of my favorite and will always be one of my favorite. If they ever do anything of that ride, I have a Matterhorn as one of my tattoos as well. So
with me, I've joked with guests before, and I love to say I don't hate it, which is quite the opposite. Not only do I not hate it, I love the pick. Pick. These aren't classic ones, but so my bucket list, I have 3: Caravan, Matterhorn,
amazing,
and Incredicoaster.
Yes,
I know. Listen, I know the Incredicoaster. It's a very polarizing ride. That people are like, listen, it's a roller coaster, but we don't have something like that. And I love the Incredibles. I love the Incredibles, so I would love the theming of it. So I got to do it. Plus, a 3A is I want to experience Mission Breakout now that I'm not a scaredy cat anymore, and I've gone on Tower of Terror over here.
Right.
Since I love Marvel and I love Guardians, I really want to do that version.
Let's talk about a few of these things because Incredicoaster is amazing. Are we okay on time?
Yeah.
Okay. The Incredicoaster is absolutely amazing. It used to be California Screamin', which is just a roller coaster that played like some cool guitar music like you're on the beach. Then they, a couple of years ago, we're going to tear it down. We're going to re-theme Paradise Pier, and we're going to call it Pixar Pier. Why would you do that? Why'd you take that away? Probably one of the smartest things they ever did because California Adventure always gets it's kind of just a thrown together park, and why did they do it? Because there's so many different, it was all about California, and then why, you have this here. But anyway, the theming, if you're talking about the theming on that ride, it's absolutely amazing because not many roller coasters can actually tell a story while you're doing it. And the story behind it is that Dash gets, not Dash, but the baby gets lost, and your whole time you're trying to get him back. You're trying to get Jack back, and you go up the tube, and inside the tube is the mom stretching. And then you come over at one part, and you come up to the top before you do the loop, and the dad says cookie num num, and you can smell cookies. You don't smell cookies on roller coasters. It's the coolest thing. So when you come down and do your loop, and then the sister shows up, and there's one part when you're going up and down through the whoop-de-whoops, and the baby shows up. Yeah. But then you talk about Guardians of the Galaxy, dude. That was one of my top 3 favorite rides. That's why I asked you what you were talking about when you wanted me to go through this. But I liked Tower of Terror. It was okay. But that Mission Breakout ride, from start to finish, when you walk into there, just the collection of stuff that's there. Because the whole idea is that you're in Tyvon's warehouse or in his museum, and all you see is just all these different things. You see Harold from the original Harold from the Matterhorn tucked up in the corner Figment is up in one of the boxes, and you just see all these crazy things. So, and there's 6 different ways you can go on that. There's 6 different songs, and different up and downs, and different patterns and stories. Your mind, my mind was blowing too, and it was, it's one of my favorites for sure. And what was the third one? Cars is cool too. Yeah. Cars is that whole land at night. There's nothing else like it.
I know.
Yeah.
Come on, COVID.
I know, right? Cars Land at night is probably one of the coolest sights, just to see that. And I mean, thank you, Bob Iger, for thinking of doing that, because that was
amazing. Yeah. What's your third? We've got 2 ones. I don't know.
My third one is Pirates of the Caribbean, which is my number one favorite attraction that at Walt Disney, unfortunately, did not live to see it open. But there's stories, and me and Samantha were talking about this the other day, and she said she loves the story about Alice Davis, who Alice Davis said that she would go from working on, from working with dressing children at night, or dressing children one day, and then the next day she's dressing filthy pirates, because she was the one that dressed everyone and did all the costumes for both attractions. But it's just that ride is mind blowing to me, and it's probably the one I have not written a story about yet, because I don't know what I'd write, because it'd probably be like a 10-page story. And his idea, when he did that, he built Haunted Mansion, and he was built at the same time. Haunted Mansion, he had no idea what they were going to do with it. It just sat there dormant for like 10 years. But they had the structure built while Walt was still alive. But Pirates of the Caribbean, Walt at first wanted it to be a walkthrough. And then Imagineers like, well, we can't do that. We get everything you want in there. And it actually goes, I think, 75 feet underground, underneath the New Orleans squares, out underneath the berm. That's what I don't know. Is there a berm in Magic Kingdom? Same kind of idea?
Not in some parts of the park. So in the front of the park, there is a little bit of a berm over in like Tomorrowland, but not so much.
Right.
There's a lot of foliage and trees surrounding, so that you can't really see into it.
So they built that when they built that, it's actually 2 different show buildings, plus the structure that you walk into that you think is the beginning of the beginning. Above that, real fun fact is another apartment that was built for Walt and Roy Disney. That was going to be their suite, because his apartment was too small. So they were building that before Walt died. So if you ever do go to Disneyland, and look up on the railings up there, you'll see Roy Disney's initials and Walt Disney's initials into the iron up there. It's pretty cool. That never got finished, but now it's been like a dream suite kind of deal, and some special guests can stay there every now and then. I love to stay there, but it'd be great. So it's right up by Club 33. Club 33 is attached to Pirates of the Caribbean. Pirates of the Caribbean, I can go on and on about it. Just the fact that you put over 100 audio animatronics.
And yet Bree still will take the movies over the ride.
Oh boy. Yeah.
The controversy that is 3 weeks old and will not die, that set the internet aflame when she announced you did on your podcast, you did movie or ride. And that was the bombshell. That was the fat man / little boy of the Disney world. When she dropped the bomb, she'll take the movies, the Pirates of the Caribbean movies with Johnny Depp over the ride. And we broke out. We broke out torches and rioted.
Oh yeah, it was. Well, I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinion, even if hers is wrong. That's fine. But I've given her so much crap about that. But it's and then Bill and Barry came on and just gave her more crap and confronted her about it. But it's Pirates of the Caribbean. Just the fact that Walt was so close to seeing it done. He died in December. I think he died in December. He died December of '66 and opened in '67. And I think I'm correct on that. But he died. He died 3 months before it was finished, and he didn't see that one finished. But it was all his idea, and just you're in awe of that. I've heard that it doesn't compare to Disney World. I've heard that Disney, from what I've heard, and I think that was in the Imagineering story, that the Disney World one was kind of just thrown together really quick because they were going to put something else there, and then they decided just do another Pirates of the Caribbean. And from what I've heard, does not compare to Disneyland. Now, if we're talking about Shanghai, which I've seen videos of that, dang,
wow.
But
wow,
still.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Yeah. All right, so I want to do some quick hits with you.
Quick hits, all right.
I love all three of those. All three, but sometimes we do quick hits. So you never have to defend any of them. Your word is final, absolute. No judgment free zone. Because
fair enough.
Like Bree, we all have our preferences, and they are uniquely ours. So all time favorite ride, doesn't have to be classic. All time favorite.
I really like Thunder Mountain. I'm not going to lie. That's one that my sons have just are obsessed with it, and we'll go there and we'll ride that as many times. If we can ride it over and over and over, we'll do it. We'll ride it during fireworks, during Fantasmic, whatever. But that's tough, man. I mean,
I don't give you easy questions here.
I'm still going to go with Pirates. I still have to pick Pirates in the end, though. But yeah,
last second, he comes in last second. He flips it.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, it means that much to me just to sit on that and watch that and just be in awe. So
awesome. Yeah. All right, favorite snack.
I was talking to my wife about this morning. She goes, "Well, what do you consider a snack?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know what he considers a snack because I don't know if they have this in Disney World, but there's this little red cart that serves hot corn dogs at Disneyland, dude. They are the most. It's a $10 corn dog, and I'd pay $15 for it. That's how good it is. But do you consider a corn dog a snack?
Yeah.
Okay, then yeah, the corn dog.
I'll take it.
Churros a close second.
Okay. Favorite dining destination?
I was thinking about this one too, and I think, can I pick two?
Sure.
I can't just pick one. Carnation Cafe, I think is really cool. It's a restaurant that is just a lot of like comfort food, I'd say.
Is that
the thing in there?
Is that
no? It's on Main Street.
Okay.
It's like halfway down Main Street, and they have fried pickles, which are really good, and they have fried chicken, which is yeah. Yes, and I'm a big guy. Let me tell you, that fried chicken is so good. And they also have chili there because Walt was a big chili guy, and they have like the recipe of the chili that Walt would eat. God, yeah, that's good stuff. Second place, Cafe New Orleans over in New Orleans Square, because of the Monte Cristo. The Monte Cristo sandwiches, and I just learned about this like 4 years ago. I'd never even heard of it. My wife's, you got to try this, and I'm like, okay. And that Monte Cristo is, it's, and then you get some palm fries with it. Damn.
So where would I find you? Your favorite part of the park to just sit and chill out? People watch, take in the sights.
Let's see. There is a spot, and I think we talked about this on Extra Magic Hour show a while back, and a couple of years ago we were fortunate enough to have the VIP plaids, which I thought was the coolest thing, and they took us, all 20 of us. They had us for like 8 hours, and just everything we wanted. They catered to everything that we wanted, which was amazing. But there's a spot when you walk into Disneyland. I go on the left, you take a right, and then you're right there. You look back over your shoulder is the train station. Then you walk up these bunch of stairs, and there's a bunch of benches up there. And when we did the VIP thing, we were able to sit in there for the Main Street Electrical Parade, like the last year it was there, and watch this from a VIP section. Now I just love sitting there because you can sit there. You're looking down all the way down Main Street. You can see the flagpole there. You can see off to your left, you can see Walt's apartment. Off to the right, you can see Great Moments, Mr. Lincoln. But straight down ahead of you is the statue, the castle. Not a better place to be. That's probably the best place to be in that park.
Favorite character meet and greet?
Oh, Mickey Mouse in Toontown there. They have Mickey's house. They have Mickey's house and Minnie's house you can actually go into. And Mickey's house is a lot of fun. We did that with the plaid, and they took us ahead of everyone in line. Did not make people happy. They took 20 people ahead of all of them, and we went through the back door of Mickey's house. And he spent probably 15 minutes taking pictures with my grandson, with all the kids that were in our group, individual pictures. It was, Mickey Mouse. And Mickey Mouse is my guy. So
you can't beat it.
You can't beat Mickey Mouse ever.
You can't beat it.
He's a man.
We have quite a few Mickey meet and greets. My favorite is Sorcerer Mickey, or what was. There's no character meet and greets, right? COVID, obviously. But Sorcerer Mickey over at Studios. It's just a really cool. So they have like a Hollywood Mini, and then you meet Sorcerer Mickey. So they're in costumes, and Love it.
I think when we were there, because the idea of walking into Mickey's house is that he's filming a movie, and so you go on the set. That's the setup for it. And I think when we were there, he was the sorcerer. There's a picture of my grandson when he was like 2 that my daughter has, and she's actually like tearing up, like this like crying face, and he's touching Mickey Mouse's nose. It's like the first time we were there with my grandson. I'll send you that picture because it's pretty damn cool.
I love it. But, we can use it for when we put the episode on socials. Speaking of which, I always love. So tell me, like any projects that we got upcoming for Walt's apartment. And to those of you listening again, so I'm a huge fan. Shawn's gonna hit us with like 3 or 4 different things that he's got going on. But please, if you're a fan of Disneyland, you got to hang out on Walt's apartment. But they have a lot of people who also come over and talk. They talk East Coast as well. It's just, listen, I'm telling you this. I love what you guys are doing over there as a station.
I appreciate it.
I cannot tell you enough to start 2021. Your New Year's resolution should be more podcasts with me, of course. But your New Year's resolution, ladies and gentlemen, should be to discover a new podcast, which is Walt's Apartment. Shawn, where can we find you?
You can find us on Spotify, Apple, all that stuff. Just Walt's Apartment, a Disney podcast is what it's called. Walt's Apartment Podcast, a Disney podcast is what it's called. You can find us on Facebook, same thing, Walt's Apartment Podcast. There's actually 2 of everything, which is a whole nother story. But we have two Instagram pages. One is Walt's Apartment Podcast. The other is the Walt's Apartment Podcast. So check us out on there. We do a live stream every Wednesday night on Facebook to where if you don't know about our show, we have about 8 people that are actually hosts. I've never had them all on one live stream. It's hard to get everyone together because we have a few shows. We have one show is the Extra Magic Hour, which is our park-specific show, which we'll be diving into a lot more East Coast park stuff, news. That's our plan for 2021 is to dive into both parks more and kind of hit them both. We have the main podcast comes out on Thursdays, which is basically the live stream. If you didn't see it, I put it into podcast form so everyone can listen to it. We are starting I guess I can say it now because of when this will actually come out. So Amber, you did a show called Mando Monday. She basically broke down every episode of Mandalorian, and it came out on Mondays. She will be starting a Force Friday show. It's going to be a Star Wars-based podcast because her and her daughter have a lot of people have Star Wars knowledge, but Amber and Jade have so much. And I think they're planning on going back to the beginning. They're going to break down Clone Wars and all the stuff. I don't even know what they're talking about. But Force Friday will come out every other Friday between Extra Magic Hour on the opposite Fridays. And I'm excited to announce that we're working on a kind of a recap show for WandaVision, which because if you don't know me, Scarlet Witch is like my favorite person in the world. She's amazing. Elizabeth, if you're listening, we'd love to have you on. So just that offer's always there. But
listen, I'll have a heart attack. If Elizabeth's one of my listeners, I'm gonna have a heart attack. You'll read it on the news. It's like
dude, I'm gonna throw it out there. I'll throw it out there wherever I can. So
podcaster job's dead.
But we're hoping to do like a WandaVision Wednesday, which
awesome.
Which will be just a recap of WandaVision, and I'm hoping, and this is my fingers crossed, because a while back when we were part of another podcast, we had a Marvel specific podcast, and I loved it so much, and I would love to maybe get that down the road. So one thing I do want to pitch before we go, you were on my show a couple weeks ago. Ethan and the Wolf and the Wookiee were on, and then I'm going to have Sam on. I'm going to have Barry and Bill from Airbnb Podcast. And this is all important because on January 13th, 2 weeks from when this comes out, I'm going to have on Wednesday night, I'm going to have a huge Walt Disney World trivia challenge between Wolf and Wookiee and this Dislife Podcast versus Disology Podcast and Airbnb Podcast. We're going to host it. I'm going to come up with 18 questions from Walt Disney World, which is I'm looking forward to because I don't know a lot about it. So I will come up with some questions. It'll be fun, a great way to cross promote and just have a great time. StreamYard can hold 10 people. We're hoping to fill it with all 10 people that night. So I'm looking forward to it.
So just a little prediction. I was feeling really good about our chances until I got to know Sam.
Oh yeah,
a little bit better. I mean, she is the definition of a ringer for that team. So I'm eating my Wheaties. I've got my biographies. I'm cramming.
Okay. All right.
It's gonna go down. You're going to have to check that out live at Walt's podcast, at Walt's Apartment Podcast. I'm really, it's an honor whenever I can join you guys over there on the West Coast and be part of the show. I'm really excited for this. I'm going to caffeine out because it's 10 o'clock on Eastern Standard Time. So I'm at a disadvantage on that front too.
Well, fortunately, you're all on the East Coast, so there's no. You're all over there.
I like that. That's the control in the experiment. Yeah. That's the control. There's no variable. Time is not a variable.
Right. Yeah, but like he said, I love to promote people and love to build them up. So listen to Wolf and Wookie, which is part of. Congratulations on that, by the way. I mean, just they're some of the nicest guys. Ethan reached out to me when we started doing live streams, when we used to be the DCast, and said, I've always been a fan and you guys are amazing. And then we just started talking and became friends. And then Brian, and then you, and then Bill and Barry helped me get this whole live stream thing going from Airbnb podcast, and Samantha from Disology podcast. Again, like he said, she is smart as a whip. Their show, take a listen to it because they do some really deep dives. Their last episode was a breakdown. Well, sorry, when you hear this, their episode a few back was they myth busted some Walt.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Urban, but yeah, I could go on all night, man. This is
that's and that's the other thing that I love about you guys is the selflessness of it's not just about promoting your own shows. It's you guys do it so freely too that it's props to you guys and respect. That it's all about the craft. I mean, you guys, and I try to consider myself amongst that same philosophy. It's all about furthering the medium. It's all about sharing. Mm-hmm. When you come across stuff, you're like, hey, listen, this isn't mine, but check these guys out. And that's how I felt with Marina Mouse. I met her, and she's just, dude, she's so spunky. She's so fun to listen to. I love her topics. That she has just these really fun breakdowns of Disney content, and it really if I'm having a bad day, I will turn on Marina's podcast because it instantly it just makes you happy. Mm-hmm. I love listening to James and Sarah at Mouse Ears and Magic. Yep. Heartfelt, genuinely nice people. I love Ethan and Ryan. That's why we teamed up with them for Orlando Monday. So that's very much what I love about this. And again, dude, that's what I'm so excited about 2021.
Absolutely.
Season 1 for me was really just getting into the community and kind of getting my feet wet and learning the craft. Right.
Sure.
So I joked and I said, season 1 of any show is always the pilots. You get a shortened season. So I would joke. I was like, yeah, that was the 6-month season. Hey, we're still here. We weren't canceled this season. We're still here. So I'm psyched about season 2. I'm only hoping that season 2 is as exciting as Mando.
I agree with you there on that part. You talk about different seasons and stuff, and I won't go too long, but the way my podcast got started was that I was part of something else before, and then I left that, and then there's about a 3-week process there where a couple of the people that were on that show said, hey, we'll do both. We'll come with you. And I'm like, all right, cool. I appreciate that. So started off the show with my friend Chris, my friend David, and Amber. Started off Walt's Apartment. I think around the same time as you, the beginning of August. No, we started at the beginning of August. We did our first episode, I think, the last weekend in July. And Chris, a hell of a man, great friend of mine. So we did everything, and we did the episode. This is going to be great. We're going to crush this. We have so many ideas. We're going to do the Marvel show, and Amber's going to do this. And I'm not trying to bring everything down. I just have to do this because I hope you don't mind giving me a second here. But
I didn't know if it was going to get too personal to talk about.
Oh no, I don't mind talking about it because talking. A friend of mine, Chris, who when you listen to our show. The opening is always the same. It's Walt talking. He says to all, come to Head Place, welcome. And then you have a guy come on and says, you listen, this is Chris, and you're listening to Walt's Apartment and Second Star. It gives me chills just talking about it and the reason it does is because after we recorded our first episode of Walt's Apartment podcast, Chris passed away the next day. So, and then I didn't know what I was going to do because he was the one that said, yeah, you can do this and go on your own and you're going to crush it. you're gonna kill this. And I said, well, I can't do this without you. And he goes, you got me till the end. And I honestly thought for a little bit that was the end. I thought that this is over already. And then talking to his family, and it's to get into a few things. I didn't mean to go this way, but I'm sorry. But the day he passed away, his daughter messaged me and said, I got something for you I think you'll really like. And I said, your dad passed away less than 12 hours ago. What could you do right now that, can I come over tonight? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. They came over, they brought me a frame. And in that frame I'm looking at it right now because it's over here off to the left of me, is Chris's script that he handwrote himself for the first episode of Walt's Apartment podcast. And they framed it up, and it's one of my most, and I didn't lose, I was upset Chris passed away, but when that happened, and I walked in the house after talking to them, and walked by my wife and went in the bedroom, and I just lost it. I absolutely lost it because dude meant so much to me. I knew him for about 2 years, and it became one of my best friends. We would talk every single day. I did not mean to go this way on this, and I'm sorry for that. But the reason Walt's Apartments podcast will never change his name is because I have Chris recording the opening saying that it would be that. So when Andy came to me and said, hey, I want you to take over the DCast, and I was like kind of shocked at that too. I said, sure, I'll do it, but I'm changing the name. And he's like, okay, whatever you want, it's yours. And it will always be that. And yeah, I didn't mean to do that. So I'm sorry. I looked over and saw that over there, and it brought,
listen, man, you got me tearing up. It's beautiful, but I said this when I was on live with you guys, that, I talked about this medium. I waxed poetic. You gave me like 5 minutes to wax poetic on the art of podcasting. What I love most about it is you have intimate conversations with people in 45-minute to hour clips at a time. And it's very revolutionary in its approach because it's all digital. You're out on the West Coast. I'm here over in Pennsylvania. We're talking via technology. We're recording the conversation. But the idea behind it is something as old as humanity, which is connecting with people on a very real topic, on a very real basis. And we all get to know each other. It was the absolute X factor, Shawn, that I never anticipated when I got into this art form, was that the guests that I would have on my show would become more than just people I shared airtime with. They would become people with whom I would have these recurring conversations with, and develop these relationships and friends with. And, whether it's you at Walt's Apartment, whether it's Ethan and Ryan, we when you keep the conversation going, it's very old school in that we become fans and friends of each other. So it's, dude, it hits me. You had me tearing up, bro. I'm tearing up. I know.
Sorry about that.
No, I know everyone can't see this right now, but it's listen, it's the perfect way to start off 2021 in my second season, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. Because
you kind of hit the nail right in the head, and you hit what this show is all about at the very heart, which is it's about people, it's about our Disney lives, it's about our Disney stories. That's what this Dislife is all about. And I thank you for sharing that with us in our first episode of season 2. And thank you for taking your time out today on a Sunday to come and record, which is going to air in a week and a half. But thank you for recording my first episode of season 2.
Of course, man.
I mean this when I say I couldn't think of a better person to start off my second season than you.
I appreciate that.
I have a ton of admiration for you. You know how I've told you in a million times how much I love your team and what you've assembled over there on the West Coast. I'm a fan. I'm a friend, and I can't wait for 2021 and any time that you want to have me in the apartment, I'd love to come.
Absolutely, man. You're always welcome. Thank
you, sir. We'll see you real soon.
Absolutely.
Well, folks, I want to thank you for coming back to share this Dislife with us for season 2. As I said last week, I'm so honored to host this podcast, and we're looking forward to big plans for 2021. Welcoming in to Wolf, Wookie, John Hinson, Allison, and John Shaver over at this Dislife Network. You can find all of our content for the YouTubes, for all of our podcasts over at the brand new website, www.thisdislife.com. And please help us keep that conversation going over at our Facebook community at This Dislife. Please don't forget to leave us a rating and a review over on Apple Podcasts. We really appreciate the help and all of the feedback. And thank you for making this Dislife a part of your day. Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you again to Shawn Williams from Walt's Apartment Podcast for the start of an incredible 2021. And I hope that this new year is filled with faith, trust, and pixie dust. We'll see you real soon.